Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome all everyone. Now I've got what I believe is a piece of oak. It could be ash, but I believe it is oak. This is a piece I got from the local sawmill probably 2 or 3 months ago when I did a video. So if you're interested in seeing that, then certainly go back and have a look. It's just basically been sat here in the shed on the floor ever since I got it. And all of that wood was really wet when I got it. The highest reading I can get on here is around about 11%. I mean, that is obviously on the outside. It's not until I get this turned down a bit that I'm really going to see what the moisture content is inside. So this might be a process that takes a few days for me to complete this project, or alternatively, even if it is wet, I might go through and finish the whole thing as it is. First thing I'm going to do is get this trued up. I'm just going to use the spindle roughing gauge on this, which I've just freshly sharpened, and put a tenon on one of the ends so I can then get it into my conventional sea jaws. Now I've got this turned down to, it's just trued up, and to me though that looks like ash. I'm sure that's not oak. But the good thing is that the highest moisture reading I can get on here is just under 15%. So it could be a little bit drier, but I've had an awful lot worse. And I think over time, especially as I thin this out, with the thinner wood, it will dry really quickly, especially with the heat that's going to be generated. So hopefully this will be okay to finish all in one project. So I'm going to just tidy up this end first of all, and then do my cup, and then hollow out before I then do the stem. Now the dimensions of this, it's standing at about 9 inches tall, which is 230 ml. The cup and the base are just over 2.5 inches wide, which is about 70 ml, and the stem I've got down to just under 7 ml thickness. Now, when I first picked up this piece of wood, it was one of the pieces I recently bought from the wood mill earlier this year, so it was still a little bit wet in it, and on the outside it was fairly low readings, but when I got into the inside it was a bit more moist, and I initially thought it was oak, but I believe that is ash, so please do correct me if I'm wrong. And it's obviously, you can see it's a very, very wide grain, and the problem that has on that is that, especially if you hold the cup and the base, you can twist them very, very easily. So there's so much flex in there, and because of that you probably couldn't really go much thinner on this without it really probably spiraling out of control. Now this week I've watched a couple of live broadcasts on YouTube, and the first one I watched was in actual fact Mike Waldt with his goblet, which is what's inspired me to do this, and is specially known in the wood turning community for producing goblets. And as he's shown on that live stream, he is also a specialist in turning the UKIS Flying Goblet, which I tried very, very hard to resist because I thought I should leave it to specialists like him. Now I've been turning now for 4 years, and I believe this is only the third time I've attempted a goblet, but certainly watching Mike's live stream was what really inspired me to do this. And as I turned it down and I see all that really thick, heavy grain, I just thought it needed something a little extra, which is why I went for the Briwax. Also, the good thing as well is that it doesn't require lots of buffing like you do with most of your other waxes that you do when you do your wood turning, and that's where it became an advantage for me for when I created the captive rings. It's only the second time I've tried a captive rings. They're two different sizes, two different thicknesses, so that's obviously something to try again and sort out in the future. For those I used my Allen key tools, which are a little bit blunt, so it did make working with them quite hard. The larger one worked quite well. I've only really got it set up for cutting in from the right hand side, whereas the smaller one, it did create a lot more vibration, but that's sort of like almost like a negative rake scraper on there, and I could go in from the left hand side. But a larger one of them would be ideal, or turn that, regrind that to sort of as a more like a negative rake. For the rings as well, I also used my walnut colouring, which is a water-based mix. If you're unsure of that, look back on some of my other videos because I have been using it a fair bit. And once the Briwax had obviously been applied on this, I then gave it a coat of microcrystalline wax. Certainly for my third attempt at a goblet, I am really, really pleased with this one. Thanks a lot for watching.